Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshulamanitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantamanupeta Apeta Krityam Rapayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Bhutreti Tan Maitaya Taravo Benedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Unimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptastikamari Tarangamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Okay, so we're going to continue. We'll hear the conclusion of Gopal Campu, the beautiful story of Krishna blessing the wives of the Brahmanas. And we first offer our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanita Leda Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Pada Asto Tarasat Sri Simad Abhaya Chanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and Sri Guru Pada Padmanita Leda Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Pada Asto Tarasat Sri Simad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, under our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga, and to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Okay, so yesterday we heard that the Brahmanas had arrived. Krishna greeted them very nicely, called them most fortunate ladies. Oh, please sit down. Personally took their plates and pots from them, right? And then kindly asked what he could do for them. And then they were a little hesitant to express their desire, naturally, out of shyness, right? And as we discussed, the nature of prema is that it's generally best not discussed directly, but indirectly. It enhances the beauty of it, right? And then Krishna, understanding their hearts, he said, yes, coming to me is very appropriate, very wonderful that you've done it. And this is your wonderful nature, he said. And it's your great fortune that your love has arisen by fortune, nothing else, right? And those who have such fortune, they are able to see me, right? And then he said something that was very devastating to them. So he spoke and said, O wives of the Brahmanas, my form does not appear at all times in all places, but it appears eternally for you. That is the way in which you can be close to me. What's he saying? Okay, it's eternally to us. That's very good. But then he says, quickly go to your houses with sons and husbands. Oh, what? We can't. They're thinking we can't. Now their minds must be reeling. But he says, I will be happy if you do that, for I desire propriety at all times. Propriety meaning adherence to the social rules and regulations of varnashram, which are meant for the protection and development of society. Right? But then you would say, well, what about in Vrindavan? Is that propriety? Well, Vrindavan is a very confidential and secret place, and that is Krishna's topmost eternal abode. And those who study the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis under the guidance of acharyas realize that there is no impropriety there from any consideration, because these are his eternal shaktis. Radhika is his eternal, you could say, soulmate. She and Krishna are eternally one. But they have separated for pastimes, and the gopis, Nityasiddha gopis, they are her kaya vyuha. And the other sadhan-siddha gopis, who become eternally liberated as well, aligned with that and under the guidance, and they're also Shakti of Krishna. So from the spiritual perspective, which is the only way to study and understand the Vrindavan pastimes, there is only propriety there as well. Krishna is not, he is upapati, he is beyond even the pati, the so-called husbands of these beautiful Brajadevis. And this is all described and elucidated by Purnamasi, having heard this and in her conversations with Gargamuni. They explain this to the residents of Vrindavan later on in this Gopal Campu. So, and actually that's explained for the benefit of people who can't understand Parakya. Actually, Parakya exists eternally in Vrindavan. And even in the end of Gopal Campu, when it appears that they're getting married, still the Parakya mood is there. It's still dominant. So in any case, that's another subject matter. We will get into this. Now, hearing this from Krishna, though what he said was very gentle, they considered his words intolerable, suddenly devoid of consistency. So what? He greeted us. He said, oh, this is very appropriate. Now go back. This is intolerable. Now, how are they going to respond? Oh, Lord, you should not speak in this way. For all people say that you alone are comparable to yourself in terms of mercy. Right? You are Karunamai. You're the reservoir of mercy. You are known for your mercy, especially to your surrendered souls. Therefore, be merciful to us. What should we do? Please accept us. Offer us a position like those who serve your lotus feet. O famous one, O Lord whose name is auspicious, O Master of Lakshmi, giving up all friends, we surrender to the lotus feet of Jashoda, your mother, right? Your mother. We will continually serve those feet. We will continually serve you. Please accept these skillfully cooked items endowed with 4 tastes, bitter, sour, salty, sweet, right? With open eyes, Krishna then spoke in humility while looking at them, considering their hesitation and adversity. Right? We've surrendered to we'll serve. We've come to offer these things. We'll serve your mother. We'll serve your friends. We'll serve everybody. Not just you. See, this is a qualification, special quality of a devotee. They don't want to just serve Krishna. They want to serve Krishna's beloveds as well, because they know that gives him great happiness. And it expands the ras. Right? So, with open lotus eyes, Krishna then spoke in humility while looking at them, considering their hesitation and adversity. O Brahmana women, you should act in a way permitted by the Devatas, and which does not create hatred in friends or my followers. You are wives of Brahmanas. No one permits that you should be accepted for service to others. One should examine the conventions carefully. So here he's laying it out very nicely. I want you to act that your conduct and your relationship with me be considered and appreciated by the demigods and by the rules and conventions of, varnashram, the social orders, responsibility, right? You are not cowherd ladies. You're the wives of Brahmanas, right? So you're not allowed to enter into service to anyone. You've offered yourself to be servants of my mother, in the forest, but that's not appropriate, you know, because you're Brahmanis. Uh, this goes against the convention of society. So in other words, in this body that you have, you can't come to me and serve me in this way. So, understanding that it was not proper to remain for a long time near Krishna, the object of longing for their eyes, and understanding that he was reserved towards them, the women, without much delay, placed the food on leaves and in other vessels, and taking back their metal pots, respectfully left. So they transferred everything. Right? And again, they would have happily left the golden pots and everything else, but cowherd boys aren't going to use them. They're not going to tote them around. And this way they are showing, we just brought the food, we brought everything back. They're still acting according to appropriate convention. Oh, Snigdha saying, Krishna quickly gave blessings to these women who were gazing at him. That blessing, revealing to their eyes the black form wearing golden cloth which they had just seen, produced great astonishment. After a long time, they returned to their houses. So even then, they were stunned. They were filled with love. They couldn't even leave immediately. They're just staring at Krishna's beauty. And then finally, they returned. Though seeing joyfully that their pots and houses were now made of jewels, they could not understand how it happened. So, just like the fruit seller had her simple fruits transformed into jewels, and Sudama had his humble cottage turned into a giant palace filled with servants. Now, this transformation also. Why? Because later, the Brahmanas, seeing that their houses were full of jewels, remembered that Krishna, as an infant, he says it here, had filled the fruit vendor's basket with jewels. They became obedient to the intelligence of their wives and accepted Krishna's position. Because for lesser people, their admiration, acceptance, appreciation of God comes from different things. Even from guru. Sometimes gurus will show mystic opulence, mystic power in order to create faith in ordinary persons. He's not like us. Look what he's done. He's worthy of worship. And the Brahmanas, who were very fruitive, they were doing all these sacrifices for what? Elevation to the heavenly planets. And so if there's any doubt that what their wives had done was appropriate or inappropriate, just look, by our wives going to see Krishna, now look what's happened. Their pots are jewels, our houses are jewels. All glory to God. All glory to God. He's given us this. And that's usually the mentality. People thank the Lord for material blessings. They seek material blessings. Because that's all most people know. Unacquainted with, the more subtle sambandha tattva, the nature of our spiritual existence, our identity as spirit soul, understanding the spiritual world as distinct from this material world. There's Krishna, there's his vibhuti, his spiritual opulences, there's this Maya Tattva and the material creation, and then there are the jivas, and then there's the interrelationship between all of them. But most people are not acquainted with that in any real way. So they see the Lord in terms of his material blessing. So Krishna's done that in order to help the husbands of these Brahmani ladies because they're the husbands of his great devotees, so he's showing them some mercy, but also to protect his devotees from the from punishment or wrath of their husbands. This is a way that they can now see, oh, they've done right. They've done the right thing. Look, the Lord's blessed them. Right? So they said, our wives who took food for the creator of the universe belong to him. Persons like us are most despicable. Right? He didn't give us these blessings, right? We've been doing all these yajnas and everything, and we're not seeing this, but they just went and offered food with love. Surely this must be the Supreme Lord. Look how he's reciprocated immediately. So, let persons who do not direct their senses to Krishna perish. Let those who direct their senses to him live. So now they've understood that. That's the first lesson of Varnashram, right? Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give in charity, right? Do as an offering unto me, right? So, he who does not worship Krishna for his whole life is already dead. He's a bad Brahmana and is without good fortune. So now they're becoming a little reflective and self-critical, which is good. The Brahmanas of Mathura long to see Krishna, but out of fear of arrogant Kamsa, they cannot go to see him. Now they were also feeling, wow, our wives went, we could go also. But Kamsa, he has spies everywhere. He'll know. And he knows about us. Oh, we can't go. They were afraid. Their wives weren't afraid. Their wives were ready to give up everything to see Krishna. So, the Brahmanas of Mathura long to see Krishna, but out of fear of arrogant Kamsa, they cannot go to see him. It has been heard that previously someone prevented his wife from going to Krishna, thinking she was rejecting him. She then gave up her body. This was to be expected from the Brahmanas because just as dust sometimes accumulates or dissipates, it is seen that irregular conduct increases or decreases in foolish persons who are attached to karma rituals. The person who served Krishna in a previous life respects him continually in this life. The person who studied Bhagavatam in a previous life is qualified to serve Krishna in this life. Serving Krishna with his own hand, Krishna in friendship fed unlimited cowherd boys, equal in number to their cows. He also tasted that food with a smile, and praising it spread bliss everywhere. So, it's stating that these wives, they appear perhaps to be of a lesser status. They're the wives. They have to be obedient, subordinate to their husband. Female body. But no, they had done all these extraordinary worship of Krishna, so much bhakti in previous lives. They were given this body as a special blessing because in that body they were able to serve Krishna with a mood and in a way that their ignorant husbands could not. Even that from a social consideration, the husbands may have been more elevated. Actually, their wives were far more elevated. This is the subtlety of Vaishnava philosophy. Even though we uphold the conventions of Varnashram Dharma for the benefit of ordinary people in society, the position of one in bhakti, Krishna consciousness, surpasses all others. In the 6th chapter of the Jaiva Dharma, there's an elaborate discussion about this, because one of the personalities who has come into contact with the Vaishnavas of Godrum, Lahiri Mahashaya, he leaves his family, an aristocratic, orthodox, smart Brahmana family. They come to try to bring him back to the house. He's old, he's retired, but he won't do it. He's so attached to the devotees and to their service, and he's understood now. And then he talks to his son, a learned, Brahman himself, a teacher of logic and nyaya. And the son becomes very impressed by the breadth of his father's knowledge and the breadth of Vaishnava philosophy. And he begins to think, oh, they're much more learned and intelligent than I ever thought. They have conclusions which I never considered. But then the Vaishnavas are visited by descendants of Chand Kazi. Chand Kazi was the Muslim local governor, mayor, whatever, of that area, who was converted by Mahaprabhu and turned into a pure devotee with the blessing that his descendants would also be like that. And so these were descendants. So although living as Muslims, were actually Shuddha Bhaktas. And so when they came to visit the Babajis of Godrum, they were received very respectfully, and they had a high-level philosophical discussion comparing Muslim conceptions from the Quran to Vaishnava doctrines. And Lahiri Mahashaya was the leader of that discussion because he was very familiar with the Farsi language and with their teachings. But his son could not understand because in that time, in that society, Brahmanas and Orthodox Hindus did not associate with Muslims in any way. It was considered that if you did, you would lose your caste, you'd fall down. Why are they giving such respect to what he perceived as Muslims, but which they perceived as Vaishnavas? And so he went back to his house and gathered in Shantipur and gathered the local learned Pandits and Brahmins for a debate. Vaishnavas versus Brahmins, right? How could Vaishnavas, give honor to Muslims and without degrading themselves, right? And then there's a whole discussion of who's qualified, what makes one a Brahmin, what makes one a Vaishnava, and how a Vaishnava is outside of the limitations and considerations of the caste system. And that one who has taken up Vaishnava principles, Vaishnava practices, and is deeply devoted, transcends the rules and regulations of and limitations of Orthodox society, Varnashram society. So one could be born outside even of Varnashram entirely and be a Muslim, but if they take up to Vaishnava principles, they're actually considered more respectable than a Brahmana who does not practice Vaishnava principles. Even a dog eater who becomes a Vaishnava, can be higher than a Brahmin who doesn't practice Vaishnava principles. So these wives are greater than their husbands by far. And it's understood that not only in this life, but in previous lives, they practice so diligently. They studied the Bhagavatam, they understood the conclusions, they've developed pure love, which is so rare. And thus their husbands come to realize that their wives are actually their superiors and worthy of their worship. So, and now Krishna is tasting this food and serving it to his friends. And while eating the food endowed with sweet, sour, bitter, and salty tastes, Madhu Mangal addressed Krishna. This well-cooked food obtained by begging is equal to nectar. Things obtained by exchange are called bartered goods. Bartered goods are not like this. Food which comes without begging is called nectar. But nectar foods are not as beautiful as this. For even if a particle falls on the ground and gets covered with dust, I desire to eat it. You must lock these wives of Brahmanas in a cottage near our hut. We will offer to you and Balaram all the hot and slightly hot foods, such as leaves, vegetables, and sweets which they cook. I will become the best person by eating the best of that food. There is no fault in that. But fearing you will get angry, we do not speak. Krishna replies, oh glutton, greedy person, right? Because you are insane with eating, you have given up all shyness. This is a sweet pastime. This is the nature of Madhu Mangal. And Radhika's criticized him jokingly like that, this greedy Brahmin boy. Right? Um, but he's saying something very important, that foods achieved through begging are actually higher than those things which you buy with your money. Um, and I remember when we had first when we first went down to Bangalore, um, we would go once or twice a week to the local market. And the big wholesale markets they have, where the wholesale vegetable dealers sell to the merchants. And we would beg from them. And whatever we got, that's what we would cook. And after we'd been there a month or two, Premananda Prabhu came down there with a busload of devotees from Mathura, young people. And we were cooking for everybody, and when he found out everything that we had gotten, we'd acquired by begging, he was very happy. He said, "Oh, this is the best way to get things by this begging." All right. In fact, in Brooklyn, there's a big wholesale market, and in the Bronx at Hunter's Point, there's a big wholesale market. And when we were in the Brooklyn Temple, we used to go there with a big school bus, twice a week, one to one, and then another day to the other one. And that's how we got all the vegetables and everything that we would use for cooking, right? Especially Sundays. Me, my godbrother Apurva, sometimes another one or two brahmacharis, but it really took off when we started bringing ladies with us, young brahmacharinis, because they were much better at it than us. And all these old guys who were selling, they really liked the girls, and they'd always give them such nice things. We used to get all the half rotten stuff, and they would get, and they would pick up half rotten stuff and to take it, and the guys would say, "Oh no, not this. Here, take a case of this, a case of that," right? And then it really took off. We had this big long school bus that I would drive, and the whole floor would be filled with crates. It was great, So, and we became heroes by doing this, right? So, Krishna's saying, yeah, or Madhu Mangal saying, yeah, this begging is great. And we love these Brahmani ladies so much, we should lock them up and just take food from them. Why? Because their food is also cooked with love, such love. So laughing, everyone spoke. Dear friend, if Madhu Mangal desires to eat food cooked by others, he should fulfill his desires for eating all the tasty food by worshipping these women while residing in a hut beside their houses from which he can gain sufficient food. Krishna said, yes, you have spoken well. We will inform Purnamasi. In other words, hey, you just stay here and eat all you want, We're going to go off with Krishna cowherding. And Madhu Mangal spoke in anger. O prince, because they are filled with desire, these boys have become gluttonous. Thus, they think of eating at every opportunity and seem to be voracious. They can be seen eating food from anywhere, since they are eager to become fat from begging. Oh, yeah. Right? Remember we used to say, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you. Yeah, you're calling me a glutton, you're the glutton. Right? So these are the arguments in transcendental Vrindavan. Now the boys respond, oh, big mouth. As a Brahmana, you sit in the sacrificial arena uttering mantras and are alert to eating the sacrificial food like a Rakshasa. But we appreciate seeing the qualities of a Brahmana. So actually, in a way, they're sort of condemning the prior behavior and mental condition of these other Brahmanas, right? Who, in other versions, Nanda Vrindavan Campu and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they were thinking, oh, give to the cowherd boys, we've not eaten yet. We're the Brahmanas, we should eat first, right? So, real Brahmanas will serve everyone else first and then take. Right? So, as the gathering of friends laughed, They ate. Krishna, everyone's benefactor, also became satisfied with eating the satisfying food. Why is it satisfying? Because it was prepared with such love. This is what Krishna's begging, what Krishna wants. He wants to taste the love. This is it's so nice to hear these kinds of stories because it assists us in our own service, right? When we're cooking, we try to remember this. Right? We're trying to make this with love. Whatever it is that we're making that day, we try to think, oh, I'm just an assistant of an assistant of an assistant of Srimati Radharani. It's her kitchen. She cooks for Krishna. She knows and can satisfy Krishna. That's why Mother Jashoda calls for her to cook every morning breakfast for Krishna, right? Because she knows that Krishna enjoys hers the most. One time when Radhika was prevented from going by Jatila, Jatila says, have Rohini or some others cook. And Rohini, her cooking is marvelous. Yashoda's cooking is marvelous. Of course, Krishna enjoys it. But he enjoys even more the cooking of Radhika, right? Because she's his topmost beloved. Vatsalya Ras is extraordinary. We can't even comprehend it. Can't comprehend it. It's so high. Gurudev has said, I fear to try to even describe it. It's so deep and high. And yet, even higher than that is Srimati Radhika. And so, when we cook, we're so fortunate to be in the kitchen, to have that opportunity. And so we have to think, okay, whatever it is. And that doesn't mean that we're not thinking of the devotees as well, because, Srila Prabhupada one time said, dress to please others, right? But cook to please yourself. In other words, you have to consider what's appropriate, what gives you strength, what gives nourishment. And if it's pleasing to the devotees, it's also pleasing to Krishna, right? So that's kind of a guideline, but always in the forefront of your mind, oh, I hope Krishna likes this. I remember one time being in Malaysia for a few days, and every day they would cook lunch. There was just a few devotees there with Gurudev. And then one day, I got to cook lunch. So I did some fancy stuff, right? And I was thinking, oh, I wish Gurudev could taste this. But I knew he couldn't because he was on a restricted diet. He would cook, Madhavraj would cook for him simply, right? So I cooked and cooked and cooked and did all these things, and everybody liked it. And I thought, that's good. I wish Gurudev could have tasted, though. Anyway, later in the afternoon, Gurudev spoke to me and said, oh, I heard you cook such delicious food for the devotees. And he was pleased by that, right? In other words, oh, you couldn't cook to me, but you cooked and pleased my devotees, my disciples. So that's very good. I'm very happy by that, right? So as the gathering of friends laughed, they ate. They're all enjoying that prasad because it was offered with such love to Krishna. Krishna accepted. All the friends are in this very intimate, happy environment. Krishna, everyone's benefactor, also became satisfied with eating the satisfying food. He then played on his flute to gather the cows, while discussing various subjects. While glancing back at the cows, he arrived at Braj, extinguished the fire of separation for him, and satisfied the people of Braj with the sweetness of his form. He couldn't have gone back to Braj with cowherd ladies, with Brahmani ladies. That would have caused an uproar. They wouldn't have known how to act. They would have been offering obeisance and serving these Brahmanis who just wanted to serve the Brajbasis. They were willing just to hide in the forest and pick up the tulsi leaves that had been stepped on or fallen from Krishna's feet and even stepped on by others. Serve the Vanadevis, serve the Gopis, anyone. They just wanted to be there. But it couldn't be. It couldn't be. Word would have gotten out. It would have been scandalous, distracting from the sweet and secret parakiya pastimes of Krishna. So, but now now he's going back to the rest of the Brajbasis. his mother, his father, their friends, the mothers and fathers of all the cowherd boys. The gopis are there. The boys spoke nothing of the incident. Right? They refrained from saying that they had gone to the sacrifice and begged. And they kept this confidential. The speaker concluded, Sigdakant, O Lord of Gokul, this is speaking to Nanda Maharaj, you have given birth to Krishna, who attracts everyone by his qualities and bestows those qualities on them. And with that, he ends that pastime. And the next one in Gopal Campu is the beginning of the Rasa Leela pastimes, or different Ras pastimes. We still have to read Krishna book. Now, after hearing all these things, we get to read Srila Prabhupada, and we'll be able to appreciate much more how carefully he crafts this, having heard all the different points of view and secret things given by the other acharyas, how Srila Prabhupada implants them and at the same time reveals according to the qualification of the audience, right? It'll be very interesting how he does this. Okay, so we'll stop here. Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol, all goes Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis are exalted. Rupanuga Guru Varga, Hari Bol.